So it's been about 24 hours since the death of Charlie Kirk. The world has had some time to really start thinking about this, the shock, what it really means to society. A lot of videos like this one have been published now. A lot of people are talking about it, what their opinions are. I've watched everything from Megyn Kelly to Glenn Beck to Vivek and to even foreign people like Netanyahu has come out. There's a lot of dignitaries have come out. Moment of silence in the New York Yankees game. A lot of people paying their respects. And then you have Congress, who had a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk, but then when they wanted to do an open prayer, then the left, the Democrats really started yelling and screaming at that. And it's because the left, they don't like religion. They don't believe in God. They're a godless people. I've watched a lot of Instagram and TikTok videos of a lot of influencers that are quite angry, and rightfully so. People that are done with this. I mean, we, as the silent majority, as conservatives, I mean, we're not in your face. We don't foment violence. We want the peace. We want conversation. We want to talk. And if you don't believe the same way we do, then we can agree to disagree. We just part ways. I mean, you do your thing, we'll do our thing. We don't care what you do. Just don't affect the freedoms of others, like I said in the video I put out yesterday. Or this last Sunday, I mean, because you have the right to be free, to choose what you want to choose, but you don't have the right to affect everybody else's freedoms. And for simply voicing his opinion, voicing his values, trying to have a debate, he was shot down. The left, the liberals, it's evil. They're leading this country further evil. It is not a party that allows debate. It's not a party that allows a difference of opinion. They want it their way or the highway. If you don't accept abortion, if you don't accept LGBTQ, if you don't accept large government, socialism, all these other things that they're promoting, then you're going to be debased, you're going to be yelled at, screamed out, they're going to come out violently against you. You're going to be talked about in media as much as possible, in social media, because they will hate you as the person and vile and victify you as a person and not just what you believe in. This is the attack on Christianity. This is the attack on good, wholesome values. Because they cannot tolerate what is good. They want to knock it down. They want to see it burn. And then they try to paint the picture that we're the ones, that the right, that the conservatives are the ones that want to knock it down and see it burn. They always paint the picture and accuse others of doing the very same thing that they are doing. When they stole the 2020 election and Biden got in, the very thing they did is accuse Trump of stealing the election and this Russia collusion. When they accused Trump of colluding with Russia, Hillary herself was colluding with Russia. It doesn't matter what it is. They accuse you of doing the very same thing that they are right then and there physically doing themselves. I'm going to show a few videos that I've kind of researched online that kind of paints a picture of what happened yesterday. So this is a Google Earth picture of the Utah Valley University. Situated in Utah County. Utah County is probably one of the most conservative counties within the state. The university itself fits about 40,000 students. And if you just zoom in, you'll find the auditorium, the open-air auditorium where Charlie Kirk was, right here in this triangle here. So he was right down here at the bottom. There's a waterfall that comes down from this pool right there and kind of off to the side there, and then there's the water pool down here at the bottom. So you have to walk around it, and you can't really go through it. So it kind of hampered some of the people exiting. But his tent was set up right down here at the bottom, and everybody else was gathered around him. The individual that created the shot was stationed right here on this building right here, right where that tag is. And that is what we're seeing so far. And if we look at the videos that were caught on site, I mean, they kind of show that. So if we look at a few of these videos, I'm going to show them here right now. So you have this video that came out, and you can see the individual kind of laying down here right on the corner there in all black. People claim to have seen him walk across the top of that roof. Very similar to a Butler, Pennsylvania thing. And then just a few minutes later, you'll see right where that arrow is pointing, he's right up on that building. And as that shot rings out, you'll see him walking off that building. You got to watch quickly here, so you'll see him running off there. And you can see he's got that rifle in his hand. You can see that long object as he's trying to huddle down right there and get off that roof. So again, what we're looking at here is he was probably shot getting up on the roof, on that, well, not shot, let's not use that word. He was, as we look at this again, that first video we saw was probably taken, someone was probably over here in the tree area over here, and he was seen up on this roof. Like I said, that first video was what we think is, it was taken here. And the person who videotaped it was over here somewhere, looking up at that corner. And he was laying down right here in the corner and probably looking down there. And from this point to where Charlie Kirk was at is probably right around 200 yards. Maybe, I mean, there's videos on people on the internet, they're probably saying it's about 250 yards. I went to this university and it's probably 200 yards, maybe even a less than that. This area where they were at is not very huge. It's not very big. It's probably 3,000 people. It's been there for a long time, and not a very big plaza right there. So he was 200 yards, maybe even a little less than that from reality, from just knowing the area and being there in person. Very, very familiar with the area. In fact, if you zoom out right here, and I'll show you this, as you zoom out and you move just a little bit north up here, you'll see this street right here that says 520 South. I used to live right on that street back a while ago. I'm not going to say when, but yeah, quite a while ago. I used to live right there on this 520 South, which is just literally maybe 2 or 3 blocks from campus. Like I said, I'm an alumni from that university. I went to school there, got my degree there. Very, very familiar with the area. There's videos also, and I'll show you this, as after the shot, you'll see some of the security guards of Charlie Kirk literally carrying his body to a Suburban, to a vehicle, black vehicle. So again, his tent was right here. They go underneath this breezeway, which is just a roof area where it's not really building, just a breezeway right there where it's just roofed walking way. And the vehicle is parked right here on the concrete right here. So you'll see them literally just walk out right here, vehicles parked right here. Number of people are piled up underneath here, and others are walking through this area right here trying to get out and trying to get around them. Cops are telling people to back off and stay away from the vehicles. So people are trying to get out through the side on the other side of the vehicles. Black vehicle is right here where they put Charlie Kirk's body in. From that shot and from the experience I have with shooting, and I'm pretty avid deer hunter and elk hunter, and when I go out and shoot a deer or elk, that's where I shoot them, is in the neck. I don't shoot them down in the rib cage. I don't shoot them anyplace else because I don't want to damage any of the meat in that animal. So I've seen that shot many, many times where I literally will hit the animal in the lower neck, right there where the jugular vein is. It puts the animal down in less than a second. Animal's dead. And I've made that shot many, many, many times, and from far beyond 200 yards for the most part when I'm up there deer hunting or elk hunting. That neck shot for an animal obviously is much, much bigger than a human shot. So the individuals making that shot was fairly skilled. 100, 200 yards or so is not hard with a scope. So they said he had a bolt-action rifle that he was shooting with, and that they recovered in a wooded area. So if you, again, go back to the Google Earth, and you just zoom out a little bit from the area where he was at, the building where he was shot from, and then right back in here, you'll see the wooded area where that rifle was recovered from. I would imagine that the shooter probably had his vehicle or a vehicle within the parking area right here, or the parking area over here that he had probably escaped with, or maybe he escaped on foot, who knows. This is the Utah Valley University Parking Services area. I've been to that building many times getting my parking permit, what I was required when I was going to school there. I had to go up there and pay for the parking permit to even park on campus. So I've been to that parking lot many times, know the area. And that wooded area right there is right where they found that bolt-action rifle. Where that black vehicle was, where they put Charlie Kirk's body into that black vehicle. So they would have put it in the vehicle would have raced down this sidewalk area right here into the parking lot right here, would have exited the parking lot, and then they would have had immediately, with 2 seconds from the parking lot, they have the on-ramp, this curve right here, the on-ramp to the I-15 freeway. Very, very quick on-ramp. Again, I think he was probably already deceased by the time he even got to the vehicle. But they got onto the on-ramp, and then if they just went north just a little bit. So going north on the freeway, maybe 2 miles or less. You'll get up to 800 north in Orem. And right here at 800 north in Orem is the Timpanogos Hospital where they took him to. So yeah, right here is that Timpanogos Hospital where they would have taken him to. Again, they took him there and then claimed that he was declared deceased once he got to the hospital. I'm sure it took him a few minutes to bring him in, get him set up, and then some doctor to get over to him. But I'm sure that the security officers probably had a lot of hope that they could revive him or do something. But I'm pretty sure that he was already deceased before they even got him into the vehicle back at the UVU. I'm glad it's that way. I'm glad he didn't suffer. I'm glad he didn't just sit there in pain. But I'm sure it was just an absolute immediate death, because I saw that shot. I've placed that shot on animals many times myself and know what the results of that type of a shot would be and how much blood came out. I've seen that in animals, and the second I saw that full video of that shot, I knew, he's not surviving that. As we all know, and we've seen all over social media, there's a lot of leftists that are celebrating his death. I mean, literally posting on there, "Oh, poor, he's died." Is sick and disgusting how they would react to that. If somebody on their side were to get shot like this, those of us who are Christian, those of us on the right, would not be reacting like that. He was a father, he was a husband, he was a son, and it doesn't matter who it was, we would treat them as a human being with the decency that they deserve as a child of God, as an American citizen. We have that respect for people, but those on the left, they just don't. They do not have that respect. They do not have any humanity at all. None. It's sick and disgusting how many of them are celebrating it. And not only are they celebrating it, but they're posting about it and openly throwing it in the face of those of us on the right, to his wife and kids that saw that in person. Sick and disgusting. You are mentally disturbed. That is just evil when you display that type of celebration. We have a video of one individual that celebrated right there on site, which is just incredibly disturbing, that he was excited to see somebody die in front of him. I don't care who it is. How are you excited to see somebody die in front of you at that type of evil manner? Especially someone who is just there to debate and to talk. But look at this video. As you look at this video and the person pans over, look at this guy. Just celebrating. Just celebrating. Like he was excited that it happened. Literally right behind him there, you see behind his arm there where the security guards are carrying his lifeless body at this point out to that black vehicle that we just pointed out, and they're going to rush him over to the Timpanogos Hospital. And while they're carrying his lifeless body out, you have a man here celebrating, cheering. This is the mentality of the left. This is evil. This disgusting that you have that type of deprivation in your brain where you would celebrate something like that. Again, right there, showing it. Look at him celebrate. And they're carrying the body out right there in the background. And that type of celebration is happening all over the internet now. All over. From leftists all over this country. Where do you have to be mentally? What kind of godless humanity doesn't matter to you? Being human doesn't matter to you? Being a father of two beautiful girls doesn't matter to you? Where do you have to be mentally to have that? And that's the problem we're having right now, is that's what we on the right are up against. That's what we're fighting against. That's what we're voting against. These same individuals that are celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk and openly celebrating it like you're seeing here are also voting. And these individuals are the people who are putting those who are on the left, those leaders on the left, like Ilhan Omar and Ocasio-Cortez and Booker and Jackson and all these evil people on the left, these type of people are putting those representatives and senators into office. It's their voting that is causing this country to be as depraved as it is. That when you ask for an open prayer, they shame you. They ridicule you and say, no, we're not going to do an open prayer because they don't believe in God. They make fun of it. Look at the ladies on The View. I mean, they have no belief in God. They have no credence for any of this. Now, they're not going to openly shame this, but you know exactly what they're doing behind the cameras. It's a holiday for them that one of the most conservative voices out there was shut down and silenced. All they want is to be able to indoctrinate the next generation and continue to indoctrinate our students at the universities. And the one light that we had at those universities trying to reverse that indoctrination has now been silenced. I'm sure they're going to put somebody else in charge of Turning Point, but nobody's going to have the charisma and ability to get in front of those students with the effectiveness that Charlie Kirk had. If we look at the love that Charlie Kirk had, you'll see that even as an evangelical Christian, there are many Christians that want to ridicule the Mormons, the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Like we've said many times on this podcast, we keep this podcast non-denominational because we feel that all Christians are good Christians. If you have a firm belief in Jesus Christ, you have a firm belief in God, if that principle, if that belief is guiding your life, guiding your morals and values, then we feel that you're going in the right direction. You're a good individual, good human being. And we as Christians need to stand together to fight evil like this. We cannot infight amongst each other. We cannot ridicule one denomination over the other. We have to come together as a unit and say, okay, you have your specific beliefs and whatever sect you want to go to, and Mormons have their beliefs, the Catholics have their beliefs, the evangelicals have their beliefs, the Lutherans have their belief. Yeah. But in the end, we all have the same basic principles, which is belief in Christ, belief in his atonement, and belief in his sacrifice for the rest of us, and belief in the afterlife, that we're going to return and live with our Father in heaven and Jesus Christ after this life. And that is what Charlie Kirk was promoting here. So if you look at this video, this is how we should treat each other. All of us that are Christians, all of us that are Judeo-Christians.
This veteran. We like certain times where my theories. Let me just continue. I love how Mormons send missionaries around the world. I love how I have my team this morning. Terrell's a Mormon, Andrew's a Mormon, Mormon's a red people. My dad's gonna love this fountain. I'm an evangelical Christian. We're gonna have fun with this, but I'm not one of those guys that hates on Mormons or calls names that on the state.
Like I said, he's gonna have fun with this. He's not one of those guys that hates on Mormons. And it's not just Mormons. It's any of these Judeo-Christian values. We shouldn't be the people that are hating on the Jews for being Jews or being the descendants of those who crucified our Lord and Savior. And I'm getting a lot of that in our comments from Christians saying that they don't deserve our sympathy. Their ancestors killed Jesus. What has that have anything to do with the people who are living today? Are they less human because of that? Are they less worthy of your sympathy, of your empathy? Should they just be slaughtered? Was the Holocaust valid? Is what Hamas doing now valid? That is the problem with society, is you're letting those left tendencies guide you even as a Christian. You've got to reverse that. You can't be that evil. We should not be victifying other Christians or other Jews when we have the same basic principles. The idiosyncrasies within the faith themselves may be slightly different, but in the end, we carry the same values of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, things that make us the U.S. citizens that we are, and humans as we are throughout the world, because there's Christians everywhere. There's Judeo beliefs everywhere. One of the things that I want to put out here, and I hope everybody takes this to heart, is what Charlie Kirk wanted to be remembered by. And I saw this video, and I think it's very, very appropriate for the rest of us to remember him by this simple principle.
How do you want to be remembered? If I die, everything just goes away. How would you, if you could be associated with one thing, how would you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered for courage for my faith. That would be the most important thing. Most important thing is my faith.
He could not have said it better. The only thing that he wants to be remembered by is by his faith. That is the most important thing. His belief in God, his belief in Jesus Christ, his belief in humanity, and that we all are children of God, that we have a purpose here on earth, purpose for life, a purpose to prepare ourselves to meet God once again. which he has successfully done. He has carried his life in a way that he is returning to his God triumphantly. And for the rest of us to be able to return in the same way, we've got to stand together, because the left, as evil as they are going to try to chop us down and burn down anything that is good and wholesome. And you cannot buy into that narrative. You cannot buy into that rhetoric that's going to be put out there all over social media, all over the news for weeks and years to come. Charlie Kirk is not going to be the only conservative voice that's going to be victimized and silenced over the next few years and months. Whether it's not as violent as this through death, or they just try to silence you through social media and other acts of trying to shut down free speech. As Christians, we've got to learn to stand together. And it's got to be Judeo-Christian. We've all got to stand together to fight against the evils that we're seeing out there. People are celebrating a death like this. People are celebrating the death of the Jews. People are celebrating the death of capitalism and the free market. People who want to see the United States and the U.S. Constitution burn so they can introduce socialism or Sharia law. Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ have always said, if you are not one, you are not mine. Because if we don't stand together, we will topple over. They will push us over. They will win. This was a minor victory for the left, and we cannot let those victories continue. So instead of victifying other sects and other religions in the Christian faith or the Jewish faith, try to stand together and stop nitpicking them for just the differences in belief. But know that those of us who believe in God and Jesus Christ need to stand up like Charlie Kirk did and just believe in faith and have that as your foundation. Charlie Kirk describes what we're facing on the left. And I'm going to show this in his own words, what we're facing, why this unity is so important.
At the core of the left, at the core of a liberal, is someone that would use the sword if they had it. They are very violent people at their core. They always have been. They can't debate. They can't have conversation. So they'll resort to these tactics. They're going to do everything they possibly can to try to murder this movement because they can't beat us. So they're going to try to take weapons. And no, we're very aware of that. I'm aware of it. We have to have full-time security. This is not a joke. This is who these people are.
This isn't a joke. The left are violent. They will take up weapons because they cannot have a debate. They cannot have a simple conversation because they are not driven by a set of morals and principles that determine how they're going to run their lives. They are set by chaos. They're set by evil, and they have the influences of Satan himself that are influencing their trajectory. And when they feel like they are not winning the battle, when they're not winning the conversation, they will resort to violence. We've seen that everywhere. We've seen that from the Black Lives Matter movements. We've seen that in the riots in L.A. about the illegal immigrants. We've seen that in a baseball field where a congressional person was shot. We've seen that against the ICE officers. We've seen that against law enforcement, how they just tear everything down. And people like our law enforcement have to go out there masked so that they don't have this violence followed to their personal homes and threaten their own families. We saw what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania with our president. What happened down in a golf course down in Florida. They resort to violence every single time, but it's not just these high-profile people. I see it on the streets that when simple people go out and just try to discuss their feelings, it gets thrown back in their face or they start getting stuff thrown at them. I've seen drinks spilled on people. I've seen people pushed in the streets. People coming up to them and just yelling and screaming 2 inches from their face. That is what we're up against. That is what the left is going to resort to every single time, is that type of violence. And obviously, we as Christians were not violent back. But at the same time, we have to stand up and be vocal. And we can't tear each other down in these moments or ever. Because if we're ripping each other apart, how are we going to fight against an evil this big when we can't even unite and organize our own selves? How is this war going to be won? Because it is a war. They literally have declared war against everything that is good in society. They've declared war against principles of Christianity, the principles of Jesus Christ. They've declared war against humanity. Jesse Waters kind of describes this perfectly. I watched a lot of news, and I'm not going to quote everything I saw in the news, but the way he phrased it just kind of hit home, and I want to play what he said last night.
The message is shut your mouth. If you can be murdered for speaking your mind in America, then America's done. We might as well live in the dark ages. And this isn't the first time this has happened. This is just the worst time. They shot Trump. They went to Kavanaugh's house with a rifle. They're firebombing Elon's cars, rioting in LA. Trans shooters are killing our kids. They just plugged 2 Jews outside the embassy in our capital. Hell, Rand Paul got his ribs broken by his neighbor. ICE agents have to wear masks because their families are getting death threats. It's officially over now. After today, we're not taking it anymore. They're telling us we're at war.
We're at a war right now to save this country, and so you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
This is a war we didn't ask for, and this is a war they can't win. The way to win is to do what Charlie did. Speak your mind louder. Tell the truth more. Put so much pressure on all of these people that they never try anything like this again. This is a turning point. Everything that we've witnessed recently is unacceptable. Everyone's going to be held accountable in the media, in Congress, on campus, everywhere. So follow your heart. Fight for what you believe in. And don't be ashamed of putting America first. We know what's right, and we know what needs to be done. Challenge them harder. Ask more questions. And like Charlie, chin high and do it with a smile.
We know what is right and what is wrong. We have those morals and values. They do not. But if we don't start speaking up and being louder, if we don't stop being the silent majority and actually start being the louder majority, this is going to continue. If we can't stand together and unite as a Christian body as a whole, they're just going to pick us apart. Just like a lion in a field of antelope or water buffalo, they will pick off the weakest ones one at a time. And that is what is happening when we do not unite and stand together. There was a prayer vigil last night at the Capitol Rotunda at the Capitol building here in Utah. And I stood up the microphone and kind of voiced some words for everybody in the audience that was here. And one of the things I mentioned was that we learned something, and I mentioned this in one of our podcasts, one of our first podcasts that we did. When the election happened, when Donald Trump got into office, there's a stark difference between before the election and after the election I want to point out, because this is very, very appropriate for right now. Before the election, Trump was evil. He was the worst person on the planet. He was victified, vilified, treated as scum, and everybody tried to paint him out as a liar and a dictator, which they're still doing. But the point I want to make is the vast majority of the public was silent because of that. Nobody spoke up on his behalf. In fact, he had to go out there and fight it on his own. Charlie Kirk was a huge part of that. His turning point operation and the way he targeted the youth and got them to come out and show up to vote for Trump was massive. Charlie Kirk was one of the biggest reasons why Trump got into office is with his ground campaign. But what we saw is people were quiet. They didn't want to openly speak out and say, hey, I'm for Trump. I'm supporting Trump. I'm wearing the MAGA hat. I've got my MAGA sign in the yard. People were quiet. Why? Because they didn't want to be shamed. They didn't want to be not popular. They didn't want to think like, well, I'm the only idiot that's voting for Trump. Because when they got into the voting booth and they could vote on their own, then they'd vote for Trump. But I'm not going to tell anybody that I voted for Trump, because if Kamala Harris wins, then I can just come out and say, hey, yeah, I voted for Kamala too. And great, everybody voted for Kamala. They would just have kept their vote silent that they actually voted for Trump. And that is the problem. Because when it came out that Trump had won not only the Electoral College, but the popular vote, all of a sudden the winds started changing. And everybody started coming out and realizing that I'm not the only ones that support Trump. I have a lot of neighbors that are supporting him. I got a lot of friends that are supporting him. And people started becoming more vocal about their support for Trump. Not only that, but Christianity as a whole, people started coming out and saying, yes, I'm Christian. Yes, I profess those type of values. And you saw Christianity as a whole starting to be talked about more in the public sphere. We showed a clip of C.J. Stroud openly thanking his God during a NFL game. We see a lot of news anchors on Fox News, on Newsmax, and all these others all of a sudden openly coming out and saying they're a little more religious. We have major podcasters like Sean Ryan and others are openly coming out and saying, yes, I want to pray. Let's stop and have a prayer right in the middle of this podcast, or even to start this podcast. A lot of this wasn't happening before that election because people were quiet. They didn't want to be shamed. They didn't want to be embarrassed. They didn't want to be the only one that was standing up for Trump or for Christianity or for anything else that was good. And it was only when people saw that he had won the majority vote, the popular vote, as well as the Electoral College, that we really started seeing a change. And it can't take that. That is my point here. Charlie Kirk, before, after, and many of us before, after, it didn't care. We knew what the morals and values were. We knew what the principles were. We knew what the difference between right and wrong, and we stood up for it no matter what happened. Even if it wasn't Trump running for office, it was somebody else. Maybe could have been Vivek, or it could have been Ted Cruz, or it could have been DeSantis. We would have stood up the same way and stood up for those morals and values. And the rest of you out there that are Christians, you need to start standing up no matter what is in the media, no matter what your friends and neighbors are doing. You've got to stand up for those values. That's just what Charlie was talking about here. That's what Jesse Waters is talking about here, is you've got to be louder. We're not going to be violent like the left, but we've got to start being louder. And we've got to start being more united. You can't wait for it to become the in thing, for it to become all of a sudden popular before you start standing up for these values. You can't be that weak anymore, because that is weakness. You've got to be a little more stronger about this and say, I know the difference between right and wrong. I have these Christian values. I know what I believe in, and I'm going to say something every single time something needs to be said. I am no longer going to be quiet. I'm no longer going to sit on the sidelines and not participate. I'm no longer going to sit back and just watch. One of the things that just appalled me is when this Ukrainian refugee got stabbed to death in that train. You see video of that killer just walking around afterwards with blood dripping off his knife, walking next to people or just holding on to the bars and looking at their cell phones, and did nothing. Nothing to stop him. During it, there was 4 or 5 people right around him. Nobody stood up. Nobody tackled him after he was done. Nobody held him down. Nobody did nothing. That is leftist mentality. That is appalling. That is the same mentality we're seeing here with Charlie Kirk, with people saying, celebrating his death. You cannot be the silent majority anymore. That is not going to cut it in today's society. You cannot sit back there and be abashed of your religious beliefs or your God-fearing beliefs, or that you're a Trump supporter, or that you're a staunch Republican, or you're a conservative, whatever it is you wanted to identify as. We have all got to start standing up and standing together. The evangelical Christians can't be ridiculing the Mormons. The Mormons can't be ridiculing the Lutherans or the Jehovah's Witnesses, who are oftentimes vilified even more than the Mormons are. We are all Christians, and we've got to start standing together. We got to start upholding these values. Because if you're weak, if you stand by and let this stuff happen, you might as well have been on that train and just sat there and watched that murder happen. We're celebrating 9/11 today, or remembering it at least. And by remembering 9/11, you remember the plane that crashed into the field in Pennsylvania, or those passengers stood up and attacked those terrorists and prevented that plane from flying into anything more important. They did something. They weren't standing up thinking they were going to die, but they were standing up and trying to prevent something. The only thing that I'm kind of curious about, wanting to know, is after Charlie Kirk was shot and people were looking up on that roof and seeing somebody run off of it, did anybody in that crowd run towards the shooter and try to find out who he was and where he was going? Instead of running away, would you have been like the people on Flight 93 that attacked the terrorists? Would you be like a first responder that ran into the Twin Towers instead of running away from it? Would you be like our soldiers that run towards the fight and run towards the battle? I love the quote that, I think it was a Frenchman that said, it's when you're in harm's way, you're in the middle of battle and you need help, you hope an American responds, because they don't care where you're at or what's going on. All they say is, we're on our way. We know the first responders are doing it. We know our military is doing it. We know the people on Flight 93 did it. That's how the rest of us need to stand up. Either physically run towards the harm and stop it, or do our best to stop it, or at minimum be vocal and stand up for our beliefs. When we have a neighbor that is victifying this, we're not in your face screaming, yell at them, but we can stand firm and say, I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in the sanctity of marriage. I believe in the sanctity of the family unit. I believe in the life of the unborn. I believe in a capitalistic market, that we need to be free as a society, that we need to have the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, the freedom of the press. I believe that socialism is evil. It is a production of the devil himself. I believe that Sharia law is even more evil and cannot spread here in the United States like it has throughout Europe, where certain parts of England are being absolutely lost to this evil religion. We're not getting violent, but we're not going to stand by idly and watch violence happen. And you cannot be silent anymore. This is war, and they've declared it officially yesterday. They cannot silence us, because if they silence us, then Charlie Kirk has just lived in vain. To stand up for his memory is to stand up and be vocal. Like I said in the video that I released yesterday, this isn't going to stop. This isn't where they tried an assassination attempt against Trump or actually killed Charlie Kirk and things kind of diminish and go away. It only gets worse from here. They're going to become more emboldened, more powerful. It only gets worse from here until Christ finally says, no, you guys are done. It's over. Time for the next chapter. Don't think it's going to be getting any better. There is no peace in the world. There's only peace in our faith and standing together. So if you think for some reason that the evil is going to try less hard because of being afraid to get caught or afraid to be prosecuted, this has emboldened them, and it's going to become more prevalent. And then the next vile act is going to happen, and they're going to become even more emboldened, and it's going to spur on another vile act, and it's going to keep going. Sadly, every single time something like this is going to happen, the left is going to attack our gun rights, like what happened in that Catholic school and killing of 2 children. But it's not the guns. It's the mentality of the people. It's the mentality of the left attacking that which is good. That school shooting was an attack against Christianity. It was an attack against everything that was good and wholesome. It was an attack against what we believe as U.S. citizens. Just like the death of Charlie Kirk yesterday was a political assassination for nothing more than what he said and what he believed in. And they're going to try to twist that into something else. They're going to try to twist these school shootings into something else. They're going to try to twist some other violent act into something else. And like many on the left are trying to do right in the news media right now, and say Charlie Kirk's rhetoric started this, and he essentially brought this down upon himself. That is a lie. That is evil. That is despicable. To all of you on the left that are celebrating this, this is your fault. This death is your fault. Your rhetoric started this. And sadly enough, I think a lot of you are proud of it. Yeah, I think a lot of you are proud of it and think that you're going to do more of it and want to see more of it. It's shameful. It's inhumane. You are what started the Holocaust in World War II. You are what started genocide down in what Hamas is doing right now. Well, you're trying to victify the Israelis for doing what Hamas is doing. I don't know. I'm trying to express in words what my heart is feeling right now, and I don't think I'm getting it out the way I want to, but I hope you're understanding what I'm saying. We will sorely miss the power and the spirit that Charlie Kirk brought to our universities, brought to our youth, and brought to society as a whole. And we got to stand up and be the same. Stand together and stop victifying each other. Stand up for your morals and values. Stand up for these principles. Stand up for faith. Stand up for belief in God. And stand up for the U.S. Constitution. This is God and Country, and I would hope and pray that you would also support our channel. Thank you for listening.